Hello and welcome to this Friday's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young, and this week is one of the most important weeks in all of the sports world, so I'll get right to it. To start, the Ohio State Buckeyes are college football national champions for the 9th time and the first time in over a decade. The Buckeyes, seated at number 8 after a late season stunning loss at home to Michigan, dominated during the playoffs, winning the national championship game against number 7 Notre Dame, 34-23 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta on Monday night. It was a rocky start to the game for Ohio State, though. On the opening drive, Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard ran the ball 9 times and capped it off with a 1-yard touchdown run to put the Irish up 7-0 early. That drive ate up nearly 10 minutes off the clock, and Ohio State looked to be in trouble. But that trouble didn't last too long, at least for now. Ohio State quarterback Will Howard led the Buckeyes to 3 straight touchdown drives, throwing touchdowns to Jeremiah Smith and Quinshon Judkins, and Judkins would run one in as well. At halftime, Ohio State was up 21-7 and was in complete control. The Buckeyes didn't stop the scoring there. Quinshon Judkins opened up the second half with his 3rd touchdown of the day, followed by a field goal just a few minutes later. Ohio State was up 31-7 and the game looked to be over. However, that's when the tide would shift. Riley Leonard would lead the Irish on a 10-play, 75-yard drive, which ended with a 35-yard touchdown to Jaden Greathouse. After a successful 2-point conversion, the score sat at 31-15, and Notre Dame was right back in it. On the ensuing drive, Ohio State receiver Emeka Egbuka would fumble and it would be recovered by Notre Dame. The Buckeyes were right back in trouble. Notre Dame had a chance to capitalize and cut down the lead, but would end their drive with a missed field goal attempt. Defense came up big for the Irish, though, as they forced Ohio State to punt on the next drive. Another Greathouse touchdown and 2-point conversion for the Irish cut the lead down to just 31-23, and it was anyone's game at this point. After several tackles for loss, the Buckeyes were looking at a 3rd down and 11 with the game on the line. Will Howard then unleashed one of the most beautiful deep balls I've ever seen, and it was complete to Jeremiah Smith for 56 yards. The Buckeyes would kick a field goal, and the championship was sealed. Howard finished his day throwing for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as running for 57 yards. For Notre Dame, Riley Leonard put on an incredible performance as well, throwing for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as running for 40 yards and a touchdown. I mentioned Emeka Egbuka's game-changing fumble earlier, but that doesn't take away from what their talented receiver has done with his time at Ohio State. The senior wide receiver recorded 6 catches for 64 yards in the championship game, and with his 205 career catches, Egbuka is now Ohio State's all-time receptions leader. If you know the amount of talented receivers that have come through Ohio State, you know that this is an enormous accomplishment. Moving on to the NFL playoffs, only 4 teams remain and will be fighting for a shot at a Super Bowl title this weekend. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but the Kansas City Chiefs are headed to the AFC Championship game. Patrick Mahomes connected with Travis Kelce 7 times for 117 yards and a touchdown, and the Chiefs' pass rush dragged Houston quarterback C.J. Stroud to the ground 8 times, and Kansas City rolled to a 23-14 victory over the Texans that sent the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions to the AFC title game for the 7th consecutive season. The Chiefs are the 4th team in NFL history to follow back-to-back Lombardi trophies by advancing to the conference title game. Houston only managed to score 1 touchdown of the day on a 13-yard rush from Joe Mixon. The Texans' defense played well, but not enough to contain the Chiefs, and committed a few very costly penalties at some very inopportune times. The Chiefs had to wait until Sunday to see who they would be facing for a chance to play in yet another Super Bowl. Later on Saturday, we had arguably the best game of the week, maybe even the season. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels shocked the world as he led the Washington Commanders to an upset win over the top-ranked Detroit Lions. Daniels threw for 2 touchdowns with 0 turnovers, and fellow rookie Mike Sainristil had 2 interceptions, both putting on incredible performances that helped Washington beat Detroit 45-31 on Saturday night to reach the NFC Championship game for the first time since winning the franchise's 3rd Super Bowl 33 years ago. The 6th-seeded Commanders were massive underdogs against the Super Bowl favorite Lions and overcame all odds as they did all season with a new quarterback, coach, owner, and general manager. The Lions' downfall was turnovers on offense. Jared Goff threw 3 picks and lost a fumble, and turning it over 3 times in the first half alone. He finished 23 of 40 for 313 yards with a touchdown pass to Sam Laporta that gave the Lions their last lead midway through the second quarter. Washington outscored Detroit 28-14 in the second quarter, which was also the highest scoring quarter in NFL playoff history. Just like the Chiefs, the Commanders then had to wait a full day to see who would stand in their way of a Super Bowl appearance. They didn't have to wait too long, however, as the Eagles and Rams kicked off their NFC divisional game to start Sunday. On a cold, snowy Philadelphia day, Saquon Barkley continued his historic season by running through the snow for touchdown runs of 78 and 62 yards and finished with 205 total yards rushing. Jalen Hurts had a 44-yard scoring run, and the Eagles held on against the Rams 28-22 to reach the NFC Championship game for the second time in 3 years. It came down to the wire, though, as the Rams almost took a late lead. Matthew Stafford threw for 324 yards and kept the Rams in it with a late 4-yard touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson that made it 28-22. The Rams got the ball back with 2 minutes left, and Stafford completed passes of 11 and 37 yards to move the ball into Eagles territory. But with the game on the line, the clock ticking, and no timeouts, Stafford was sacked by Jalen Carter on 3rd down and threw an incomplete pass on 4th down to end the game and the comeback effort. Later that day, we had the game of the year on the slate. The Bills and Ravens were all set for another snow game in Buffalo. It was a slow, calculated chess match of a game, but ultimately the Bills' defense is what propelled them to a win. MVP frontrunner Josh Allen rushed for touchdowns of 1 and 4 yards, but he threw for only 127 yards and rushed for just 20. Buffalo finished with a modest 273 yards of total offense that included rookie Ray Davis scoring on a 1-yard touchdown run. The Bills allowed 176 yards rushing and 416 overall to the Ravens, but compensated by forcing 3 turnovers. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry still put on incredible performances, and the game was still very much within reach with 1 minute remaining in the fourth. Jackson threw a 24-yard touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely to make the score 27-25 with 1 minute and 33 seconds left in the game. The Ravens had to convert the 2-point conversion to keep their hopes alive, but a heartbreaking, wide-open drop pass by tight end Mark Andrews in the end zone would mark the end of the Ravens season. The Bills also amazingly finished their season with a perfect 10-0 record at home. Like I said, just 4 teams remain in the conference championship rounds, and will do battle on Sunday to see who will advance to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. The Washington Commanders will head to Philadelphia on Sunday at noon on ESPN, followed by the Chiefs hosting the Bills at 3:30 p.m. on CBS. You don't want to miss out on any of the action, so be sure to tune in for these games on Sunday. Next week, I'll give a recap of these games, but also bring you up to speed on the NFL coaching carousel so far. Last week, I promised to mention some non-football related stories, so I'll fulfill that now to end the show. The National Baseball Hall of Fame's class of 2025 is now complete after Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner were voted in by the Baseball Writers Association of America in ballot results that were revealed on Tuesday night. They join electees Dave Parker and the late Dick Allen in an induction ceremony to be held on July 27th at the Clark Sports Center in Cooperstown, New York. This was a ballot with international significance as well, as Ichiro, on his first ballot, became the first Asian-born player selected for the Hall. He nearly became the first position player elected unanimously, falling just 1 vote shy of that historic standing. Closer Mariano Rivera, a 2019 inductee, remains the only player elected unanimously in the long history of the process. Sabathia was also a first ballot selection, garnering 86.8%, while Wagner gained entry on his 10th and final writer's ballot with 82.5% of support. All 3 of these players are absolute legends in baseball history and are more than deserving of their immortal spots in the Hall of Fame. With all of that said, make sure to enjoy your weekend full of crucial football games, plus some NBA, NHL, and more if you so choose. Make sure to come right back next week for more news, updates, and highlights from all across the sports world. As always, thank you for tuning in. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.